Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Finance and Accounting Show, and today I have a great guest on. Now, as you know, I always love bringing on other accounting and finance professionals who really can share a perspective that I think a lot of business owners need to hear and a lot of accountants need to hear is that, you aren't always the right fit for a client, and a client isn't always the right fit for you. So sometimes your client needs to fire you. Sometimes you need to fire the client, but we're going to talk about that with this amazing firm owner in today's conversation. So stay tuned for today's conversation.
Welcome to another episode of the Finance and the Accounting Show. This is the place to go for small business owners. If you're looking for a great way to understand the finance and the accounting side of your business, you're in the right place. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode.
So without further ado, let me bring on my amazing guest, Juwan Williams. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Terrell.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I definitely love, when you and I have talked about, with the years of experience that you've had in running your firm, and not only just running your firm, but actually growing it and just learning through those growing pains. So I definitely want to get into that. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about your background and just kind of, how did you get into accounting?
Yeah, I actually can. So crazy enough, I grew up in my mom's salon. My mom's a cosmetologist. She owned her own salon, and I did not do hair or anything like that. I did the books. So I was in high school, and I'd come in from school, and she'd have me counting her money, scheduling her appointments, and I literally just kind of fell into it. But I thought that I was going to go to law school. So I had my mindset on going to law school. I majored in criminal justice. And while I was preparing to study for the LSAT, I started doing payroll. And then that kind of developed into accounts receivable and accounts payable. And I'm kind of like, I think I like this. So I kind of did not continue to pursue law school. I did go get my master's degree in accounting, and I kind of merged the two. So I'm a forensic accountant and auditor. So I still get the criminal investigation side of things, audit side of things, and I kind of married the whole legal and accounting. And then the rest is history. I started in mortgage accounting and then corporate accounting. And then in 2007, I was like, I need to be doing this for myself. I was like, at that point, I was a senior regional accountant. I was handling like 140 clients for my corporate job. And I'm thinking, if I can do this for them, I could definitely do this for myself. And that's when I kind of just started branching off, picking up clients. And, 2 years after starting in 2007, I was able to go full-time in my firm. So I've been full-time in my firm since 2009, and I never looked back.
Nice. I love it. Now, I guess one of the things I'm curious about is as you kind of navigated through those different types of accounting, did you find that there was much difference between was there a type of accounting that you liked more than others when you went from like mortgage to other ones?
Yeah, so definitely the mortgage industry was cool, but again, that was working for a corporation. When I started my own firm, as most people do, you kind of start doing bookkeeping because this was prior to me being a CPA. So I had a lot of churches, nonprofits. I work with an array of clients, but then I really love the nonprofits because I love the intricacies of their budgeting and budget versus actuals, helping them with grant writing and all of that. So back then, my specialty was nonprofits. I really liked it. But then, like I tell people all the time, you evolve with the times, you even evolve in your role, because I completely transitioned over the years out of offering bookkeeping at all. I do CFO consulting now. And then audit and forensic. So I always tell people, you start off with a vision, but don't be afraid to change that, because as we change, the time change, the client's needs change, then you want to also make sure you can evolve. So when I started my firm, again, it was 2009, and it was McLean Harris and Associates, because that was my maiden name and my married name, and you just kind of combine them all together. And I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be my name. And then the crazy thing is, a lot of people would think that we were a law firm because of the name. So I was like, okay. And then as I evolved, though, as a business owner, and as my business evolved, I actually rebranded in, I think it was 2014, as CFO benefits, offering chief financial officer without the overhead. And that was kind of the tagline for that, which has now evolved into the Lady CFO, again, because of the time and the climate that we're in. Women empowerment, women can do the same thing that men can do. So why not hire you a Lady CFO? So that's kind of what my new branding has been over the last few years. And that also is what I consider, and I tell people all the time, my niche. I don't coin myself as the tax accountant because I hate taxes. I don't want to do anybody taxes. Don't come to me if you want your taxes done.
I completely agree. I mean, because it's one of those things. I had a conversation with someone. I said, you know what? I'm a CPA. I understand tax way more than the average person. But I just don't do them. I mean, it's not my area of expertise, and you probably will find someone that can be a better fit for you in that area. So I completely get that. I mean, and there's so many great things that you just talked about that I want to go back and revisit a couple of them. And so, one of the things you talked about is when starting off, you started off as bookkeeping. You don't do that anymore now. So, one of the interesting things that I find with a lot of, accountants that go into starting their own firm is, they go through this process of they start and they're just trying to get as much revenue as possible. And oftentimes they're not all that strategic about what type of revenue they get. What was that phase like for you? And, what helped you kind of learn how to, be more strategic about the clients you brought on as opposed to just trying to take anybody who will pay you?
Learning how to say no and knowing what makes me happy. Like, knowing that, I find gratitude in doing this versus doing that. So again, like you say, most accountants, we start off taking these bookkeeping clients doing good and well. We don't want to do anybody's bookkeeping. And for me, I've always had a staff. So I tell people, that one man show thing, you can't do that. Like as an accountant, and especially as a CPA, you don't want to be the one going through reconciling an account. You don't want to be the one entering the bills and sending out invoices. So even when I started off smaller, I always had a bookkeeper, whether it was outsourced overseas or whether it was someone locally that came to my office, because that's the part of it that I've never liked, like that just sitting there clicking, ticking, and tying and all of that. However, I mean, you do it to start because that's kind of how, you put your name out there and people kind of see what your services are. But then you get to a point where, this isn't where I want to be. And then you learn how to say no, or you learn how to scale, just staff up. So I tell CPAs all the time, like, you don't want to take bookkeeping clients, then hire a bookkeeper. Like, you don't have to do the bookkeeping yourself. And it's not that you should continue to turn down those types of clients. It's just that you need to have a staff that can support that need, because that's not something that you want to kind of get hung up doing.
That's a really good point, because it's one of those things that I realize even myself. Like I left my full-time career to focus on, building up my business back in April of 2020. And, CFO services are probably where I spend more of my time, kind of from a corporate, as well as working with helping startups raise capital and stuff. So bookkeeping was kind of a place where I started. And I think I quickly realized this is not what I want to do. And I was fortunate to find someone that, a friend of mine that I connected with. He's a CPA, but he was like, his whole firm is all around bookkeeping because he just absolutely loved it, his team. And so just developing a partnership like, hey, if I bring on clients, can your team do the background and I'll layer on the analysis? So I think what you said is a brilliant idea.
Because I think a lot of people, they kind of limit themselves because they will say, okay, well, because you got to think the average small business needs bookkeeping. A small business may not be at a level where they need a CFO, but they need bookkeeping. And then as they scale, you scale their service needs. So I tell people, don't shun away your bookkeeping clients. You just don't do the bookkeeping. But that way, as that company grows and they can afford your CFO, type of fee, then, hey, they're already a client. And then you can assess that need. You can say, hey, we've been doing your books for a while. I notice now that revenue has tripled. Your needs have increased. Let's look at changing your service level agreement, because these are some areas where I can help you. And now you took that bookkeeping client and you've now sold them on CFO services. So now you're doing what you love and you still have an existing client. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Gotcha. Now, in that process, I mean, did you go through some of the, I guess you say, like the mindset shift from a lot of times people are doing whatever it takes just to get money in the door. But at some point, like I say, when you start thinking strategic, like, hey, if I'm going to really build this business, how do I actually build a business versus just trying to recreate my day job? You
Yep.
know, how did you kind of make that shift to go from, hey, I'm not just trying to recreate my day job, I'm actually trying to build a business? Like, were there some things that you did or some things you came across that helped you make that mental shift?
Yes. So the number one thing is, again, when you already have clients and you want to now shift over to something else. And sometimes it's hard for the clients to accept that, because I went through a phase, especially after I became a CPA, of saying that, I can still offer you the bookkeeping services, but you get a bookkeeper. You don't get me. You don't get to talk to me. We don't get to chit chat it up. It's like, if you want bookkeeping services, you get a dedicated bookkeeper. Now, I may or may not meet with you once a month to review, because I have accounting managers that do that. So you can meet with your accounting manager to review your financials. And I kind of back myself out of that direct contact with those clients. It frees you up to really connect with your CFO clients, the ones that are paying for that service, and kind of back you away from having to deal with the day-to-day of the smaller clients. Now, were all of them happy about it? No. But a client that understands business should understand that when you're scaling, there's some things that we can't do the same. I still have my top three first clients from 2007. They're still clients. They're still clients 14 years later, but they know that relationship we had in 2009, 2010 may look a little different in 2022, because I'm running a different type of business now. So you can't, text me at 10 o'clock asking me something. You're gonna get an auto response that says, Tamara, my accounting manager, will contact you in the morning. So I think they understand that, as times change and as your business scales, you're still offering them great quality service, but it's the service that they're paying for. And as a CFO consultant, then you're paying for the bookkeeping service, then you'll still get great service. It's just that you may not have that direct contact with me all the time. And that's when you just learn to say no. That's when you learn to, when you take that initial meeting with a client. And I tell people, man, listen to your intuition, because it never steers you wrong. The first client meeting, you can tell right then if this is a client you want or if this is a client you don't want. And I'm the type of person that I don't, and not to say that some people love the interaction, the phone calls. I'm very, get to the point, please. I don't like to be on the phone all day long. Like, I can't deal with all of that. So if I'm in a client meeting at an initial intake or, introductory meeting, and I can feel that this client is going to be one that wants me and my time, that's not something I have a lot of. So then I automatically know that this isn't the client for me. And you can't be afraid to just say that. Money may be great, but what you're going to sacrifice in the end is your mental health. When this person wants to spend every other day on the phone or a Zoom call with you, when that's not the type of service you deliver. So I make it clear, depending on, again, what their service agreement is, that this is what you get for this service. And even at the CFO level, this is what you get for this service. I'm still a contractor. So I'm not an employee. So I'm not going to be on the phone with you, every day, walking through this stuff every single day. We'll schedule an appointment. We'll meet. I'll make sure I have your deliverables ready, but you have to set boundaries. And I think a lot of accountants, because again, they want that business, they don't set the boundaries. And then they end up running themselves into a hole and trying to just maintain and juggle it all, because you've gotten this client now used to just dealing with you, and they don't want to deal with anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think that is amazing insight. And, even as I think about, myself is where a lot of that started to hit home for me is when I started thinking about scaling. And when you talked about that earlier, that was a point I wanted to go back to is, when you started thinking about scaling, whether it was scaling your team or even just scaling the services, going from bookkeeping to offering CFO services, what was kind of I guess you say the difference that you saw, or how did you explain it to people as, hey, this is what bookkeeping is, this is what CFO services were? Like, how did you kind of scale people's expectations?
Well, it's in my service level agreement. So when we first meet and I offer, they ask you, what are your service offerings? I go through them. I always start at the CFO level because that's what you want to pitch to, because that's what I do. So I always start at the CFO level and say, but if that's not where your need is, then I can do this. I give them that package. Okay. But if that's not what you need, then we also can offer this. Usually I start at the CFO level, or maybe a step down, and then let them tell me what their need is. So they may say, okay, well, dang, that's wonderful. I can see needing that maybe in 5 years, but right now I need this, and that. I said, okay, great. We can support that as well, but this is what that'll look like. You'll get a dedicated bookkeeper that's looking at your books, reconciling whatever weekly in QuickBooks. You'll get an accounting manager that'll make sure you get your financials every month. Boom. That's all you get for bookkeeping. My name is nowhere in it. So then they don't have an expectation that they're going to meet with me, once a week, or meet with me. That's not in that package at all. So then that way you're already setting the expectation of the client. So that client can't say, well, hey, Juwan, I signed with you a year ago and we haven't had a meeting. We weren't supposed to. So that just kind of sets the tone right there. And I mean, people respect that. Like, I get people laugh because I'm really straightforward and to the point, but you have to be, because if you promise the world, you will run yourself ragged. And how I know from experience, because I did that at the beginning. At the beginning, you want the client. So you're promising them this, and I'm going to respond within 24 hours or within the same business day. And you're trying to be Superman and Superwoman and get all these clients in, and then you work like a crazy person.
It's one of those things I laugh when you say that, because often when talking to other accounting and finance business owners, I always laugh when they start explaining about, like, how they're approaching their business and how they deliver their service. And it's one of those things in my head, I'm just like, what, you haven't hit growth yet. Like, because that's going to change.
That's going to change real quick.
Because I would say, although I've only been in, like I said, leading my firm for less than 2 years now, but we crossed over like the 6-figure mark about 11 months in. And what I quickly realized is the mindset I had at 4 months in had to completely change if we were going to keep growing, to where I'm just like, yeah, there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to approach this the same. And so whenever I'm listening to some people, they're like, oh yeah, we respond in, like you said, 24 hours. Like, oh, you hadn't grown yet. Or
yeah, exactly.
You must have a really good team to be able to do that.
Yep. It is really about setting expectations, though, because once a client knows and understands, then they're fine. So I don't have to panic every time I got an email, like, oh my God, I got to respond, because they know better. Like, they know that's not going to be. Now, if I do respond quicker, they appreciate that. It's like, oh, okay, great. Thanks, Juwan. But then if it takes me the next time they send an email a day or 48 hours, then they know that that's the expectation. And again, you have people in place too, though. So you have people in place that can answer those simple questions, to where you aren't having to stop what you're doing to answer a client email. And I mean, preferably, if like I know, and you're really trying to scale, most of them shouldn't be emailing you directly anyway. Like, they really should be going to your accounting manager or someone, so that you aren't bombarded down. Now, I do tell people that want to get to that CFO consulting level, as a CFO, unless you have multiple CFOs, which I do have multiple CFOs that work with me under the umbrella of the Lady CFO. But for me, myself, at that level, is probably only 3 to 5 clients that you can take at that level. So when people say they want to scale their CFO consulting firm, then you need to add other CFOs, or you need to make sure that you limit the amount of CFO level clients, but then still take the other clients that your team is handling, so that that 2 at the beginning of the 6-figure then turns into 7 at the beginning of the 6-figure. And then, now we're working with it. Now we can go ahead and get this thing to 7 figures. And it absolutely be done. Like I tell people all the time, I'm the founder of my company. It's me. I use other consultants as CFOs who have their own CPA firms too, so that we can all pull in together when needed. Like I'm not a finance person at all. I'm definitely a management accountant. I'm a CPA. I'm a management accountant. I'm an auditor. But I have a really good friend of mine, Tori, who's finance. She does modeling and building. So when we go into a client like that, we pitch together. Like she has her firm, I have my firm, but when we pitch it under my firm as the Lady CFO. And guess what? Now you got two CPAs. So now I can charge you $15,000 a month or $20,000 a month because now you have two of us. One does financial modeling and forecasting and all of that, and then I'm on the management accounting side of it, and then we can run your whole department. So I tell people to think outside of the box. Like, don't think that you want to scale to a 7-figure firm, but you're trying to do it all on your own. Like, good luck with that. Like, that's just not going to happen. So don't be afraid to reach out to your circle and say, hey, dude, hey, girl, look, we got this client going on that I want to pitch to. I don't have enough to support it. I don't have a team. Can we come in together? Because you have the team, I have the knowledge. Let's go get this client. And that's kind of how we work together.
Nice. I love it. I love it. And, and there's so many things that you talked about and you alluded to as far as like, on the scaling side and the growing. And even as I think about, like I said, myself, like, it took us about 11 months during a pandemic to hit 6 figures. And I think back on it, I'm like, there's probably a ton of stuff that I did wrong that I wish that I had, I wish I would have probably slowed down and learned from someone else. And so I was excited when you talked about, the coaching that you do. So can you tell, audience about like some of the coaching? Because I think I will tell people that, it's great to grow your firm, but it's so much better to grow it with someone who can actually help you do it in a much smarter and much, strategic way.
Learn from the experience of others. And that's what I tell my coaching clients now. So I do coaching now. It's the sixfigurecpacoach.com. I coach women, not women necessarily, but women or who tend to come to me, but I coach accountants in general. They don't even have to be CPAs. So it's, you're trying to grow your tax firm, your bookkeeping firm, whatever it is, and CPAs as well, on just that, the mistakes that we're not trying to make. So it's things like, finding your niche, branding, PR, marketing, your website. What is your tagline? What do you want to be known for? Again, I tell people, and people are probably going to hate on me for this, but when your name says such and such financial services, what does that mean? Financial services can be anything. So like, what does that mean? So you have to make sure that you brand yourself so that when someone knows, they hear your name, they know exactly what you're offering. And then they'll come to you. And even if they can't afford that service. So again, if I say I'm the Lady CFO, you already know that I'm offering CFO services. Now you may say, I don't need CFO services, but what else do you offer? So that's going to grab their attention anyway, because they know you're up here and their company eventually wants to be up here. So then let me talk to her and figure out what it is that she can do for me now at this level. So I always say, be careful on how you brand yourself, your website, your positioning in the market, definitely pricing, because people underprice. Another, beginner's mistake of just wanting to get a client in, and you just quoted a client $500 a month, and now you want to shoot yourself in the head. So I tell people, like, now if you come to me for bookkeeping, and mind you, you're going to get a dedicated bookkeeper, but bookkeeping minimum is $1,500 a month. And CFO consulting is anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 a month. Just depends on what you need. So I just tell people, again, with the coaching, we're looking at your pricing, your positioning, your PR. You need PR. Like, it's 1 million accountants out here. What's going to make them go choose you? Like, you have to put yourself out here so that people know who you are. So whether that's social media, and in the pandemic times, it's going to have to be social media, because we're not doing a whole lot of in-person networking and stuff these days. So that's literally what it's about. And crazy enough, I had a masterclass starting in February on that. And it's a 4-week every Saturday for 4 weeks in February, 2.5 to 3 hours. And we're going over all of that. And it's just, I entitled it, Put Me in the Game, Coach, because people like, it's a lot of us out here, put me in the game, coach. Like, can I get some? that's kind of how I look at it. So, but that's what the masterclass is about. That's what the coaching is about, is really just letting other entrepreneurs in this whole accounting industry find out who they are in the industry first, and then developing themselves around that brand, where they want to be, where they want to go, and then helping them get there. I've done it now for 15 years, so I'm ready to hand off. I'm trying to retire in 2 years. I opened a nail salon, so that tells you I'm trying to retire. I got like multiple businesses. I'm like, I ain't trying to look at nobody numbers in 2 years. I got a nail salon, I got a CBD business. Like, we doing all kind of things over here.
I love it. I love it. I mean, and I will say to anyone watching and anyone listening, like, I honestly, I don't get any referral fees, any kickback fees. I just get the pleasure of knowing that you are not trying to do it on your own. Because I will say is yes. I mean, when people ask me about, oh, how did you grow your firm so fast? And it's like, well, I can't explain it to you. You need to work with someone who can explain it, because I'm like what I did was an insane amount of effort that I wouldn't recommend anybody else do. I mean, even from the fact of just like the simple fact of like networking, like during the pandemic, like I literally met with like 380 business owners, like doing interviews like this in a matter of like 11 months. And I'm like,
you weren't sleeping.
And I'm just like, there has to be a better way to do this. So I definitely recommend you guys check out, the coaching that Jawan talked about. And can you let them know where's the website that they can go to check out that coaching and get a seat in that masterclass?
Absolutely. So the website is sixfigurecpacoach.com. And we actually have every Wednesday from 7:30 to 8:30 a free informational session. So if you like, I'm kind of interested in the coaching, but what am I going to get out of the class? You can go and join that. Terrell, I think it's up under experience. So if you go to the website, click on the experience, you'll see how to register for that session. And that's 1 hour of me just telling you what I offer doing the coaching sessions. And then the coaching sessions, as I mentioned, they do start in February, and they'll be every Saturday, 2.5 to 3 hours on a Saturday, going through everything you can possibly think of to help you grow this business. And after the master classes are done, you still have lifetime access to other classes. So you don't have to then turn around and, oh my God, I got to take another class because I forgot what she said. Like, you can always tune back in during the next class session and say, hey, I need to go through the PR module again because I can't remember what you said and how we should do that. So you do get lifetime access to the class. You can book that mastermind informational session on the website. And yeah, that's what it is.
Awesome. I love it. Again, like I said, I highly recommend anyone of working with somebody who's been down the road before. It is, because even as I think about now with just, scaling, and, one of the things the interviews have allowed me to do is to meet people who are further down the road than I am right now. And it's just like, I'm like, man, I wish I would have talked to you like a year ago. Like, my wife wishes I would have talked to you.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap it up, one question I always love asking, everyone is, when you think about your journey and you think about, things that you've kind of learned along the way, what's 2 pieces of wisdom that you would share with other business owners? And it could be anything you've already said that you want to reiterate, or it could be something new.
Okay. 2 things, and one is really important, is that not everyone is an entrepreneur. So make sure you know that. Like, not everyone should own their own business. You will definitely work harder in your own business. So if you're leaving your corporate job thinking, I'm just going to start my own business because I want to work less, then go back to that job, because it's not going to happen. You're going to work harder, at least for the first few years anyway, because you're scaling and you're growing. So just keep in mind, evaluate that. Maybe you aren't an entrepreneur. So before you go quitting your job, make sure that that's definitely something you want to do. So that would be one word of wisdom. And then the second is automate. Data analytics, software, Bill.com, SIF, whatever tools you can possibly find. Stop trying to do stuff manually. Automate every system you can possibly get and find an admin, because mine just popped up on Skype and that reminded me. My admin has been my admin since I started. And without my admin, I would not even be able to function. So stop trying to do everything your own. Go get you an admin. Go get you a social media marketer. Go get you a bookkeeper. Like, stop trying to do it on your own, because you will never scale if you're your only resource.
I think that is amazing, Juwan. Thank you so much for being a phenomenal guest. Love the wisdom that you shared. And before you wrap up again, can you repeat that website one more time so people can go check out that masterclass and check out the amazing resources you offer?
Yes, absolutely. So it's www.6figurecpacoach.com. So 6figurecpacoach.com.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Finance and Accounting Show. If you like what you heard, don't be selfish. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then share this with a friend, because you know a business owner that could definitely use this insight. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and
Hey, it's your girl, Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Right here on RETV, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Tune in to Millionaire Man Cave on Relationship Entertainment Television, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
This is Tyron
and Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune in to the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, Be blessed and be great.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demita Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On?